Hello. Hello, hello,
Hello.
hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, Marcus.
Mark, I don't know. The sound dropped out,
The the
honestly.
sound dropped out. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
We just tested it. Uh,
I can't hear you now, so I'm going to take Mark off for a moment and bring him back.
and how's this? No?
Now,
Is it better?
for those listening, welcome. For those watching the recording, and for those watching now, yeah, we
How's this?
fixed the audio right before all of this.
Was this
And then, right when we said go live,
anything here?
I
No?
can't hear Mark at the moment. If you're watching, I see that there's one person watching on
How is this
Facebook.
now?
Can you please send me a message? Let me know if you can hear Mark or not, because
Marcus,
on my
can you hear
side
me
I
now?
can't hear him,
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
and I know it was working.
No?
All right,
Okay.
well, that's all right. Mark, he came off. It's all right. Well, today we're still going through our book, Coming Home to Who You Are. And we're looking at chapter 15, A Daughter's Wake Up Call. And with A
Hear me
Daughter's Wake
now?
Up Call, I'm going to bring him on and off until the sound comes. And until that moment happens, Mark, your presence is appreciated. I'm going to go on and introduce it.
Go ahead.
In A Daughter's Wake Up Call, there's Dean Pilot. And Dean Pilot, he is the dean of the school. He had to just let go one of his best professors, Professor Amar, and he has a teenage daughter. There we go, Mark.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back. You're with us.
Yay! Good. Hello, Marcus. Hello
Hello,
from
Mark.
Florence. Uh,
Hey,
the
Florence, Italy.
the
Yes.
economics
Talk to me.
faculty in Florence, where I have been for a conference now the last 2 days. And the theme of the conference is economic renaissance in the heart of Florence. How
Hmm.
amazing is that? So I have been channeling Professor Amar here. And I've got lots of stories. And I know we have chapter 15 to cover, but I have lots of stories I could share as well from my 2 days here.
Yes, I mean, you're talking about Italy. This is the thing about Southern Europe right now. All of Europe, all of the world, actually. Today, we're talking about listening across generational divides, because making space to understand cross generational experiences. And this is a topic for East Asia, in
Mm.
Korea and China, right? And in Japan right now, China creeping up, America, biggest transfer of wealth going on with the boomer generation getting aged. And in Europe right now, Renaissance means a renewed thinking about. So there's Gen Zers who are just like feeling the system is set up and it's too suppressive. There's those who are 3 or 4 generations removed. They had a lot of housing after the war. A lot of people got a lot of subsidies, or a lot of, so there's a lot cushy. It was better. um,
Wow.
well, I mean, it was what it was. It was what it was.
Yeah.
And now I know in Italy, parts of Europe, like outside of the big city, nobody can maintain those small villages. It's older, it's more aged communities. Talk to me, man. What are the stories? Yeah, I mean, there's the book, and we can talk about the book, but you're at the conference right now. Um, nice to meet you,
I,
Mark.
I
I'll call it your
honestly,
name.
I feel like I've been living the book the last couple of days. I've been living the book, and it is amazing because the conversations and the speakers, and we also had a chance to present yesterday.
Mm,
There is really this sense of what we is not working anymore, and yet there's the talk, and then there's the doing that is not necessarily aligned yet. So the conference is set up, for example, there's a panel of speakers, there's the experts, and they talk about all the things that aren't working and what we need to be doing differently. But the way the room is set up doesn't speak to that. They talk about we need to engage and have intergenerational dialogue, and we need to be much more involving the students. But there is no room for that. It's a one-way stream of information, and so you feel this you just feel the energy is very low in the people receiving it. And these are economists and some students and people who are sort of working in this field.
Hmm.
And so, there's just so much kind of, the intention is there, but the actions aren't flowing from it. So there's this mismatch between what we want and what we're doing.
So let me explore this, and then let me give some thoughts to it. Out of curiosity, when you said, I forget the words you said, but you said it's not there. Did you mean in the sense of structuring of the conversations, or with who's having the conversation? And when I say
Well,
structuring of the conversations, is it just paneled down and we're talking about what it is,
yes,
as opposed to we're actively looking for solutions and we're
yeah. There's a yearning for dialogue, and there's no space for dialogue. That's the simplest way to explain it. So I'm sensing the audience, right? And I feel something, and I know, and I speak with other people there, and we're feeling the same thing,
Mhm.
and yet the space is not created for it. Of course, outside the breaks and the dinner in the evening and stuff like that, where there's an amazing sort of networking effect that's taking place, and a lot of important
Mhm.
things are being discussed. But in the conference itself, it's still very much doing things the way we've always been doing them, and you
Mm.
know and yet the messages being put across are we need to be doing things differently, right? So I guess it's in that transition phase where there's an awareness that's coming, but the actions aren't following the awareness yet. uh, it's very
N-
fascinating.
Well, and here's the interesting thing, right? Well, I say interesting. I feel like I'm a middle generation person, and that yeah, there's wisdom here. But I also know the agency, the action, the boots on the ground, that's the young people. You always have to have the young people on board. But if they're not welcome to the conversation, in that if their perspective's not seen, even if it is, I don't want to say off, even if it is not as full with experience as wisdom, if they're not welcome to the conversation, whose solutions are we going to find? Like, the solution is serving
Mm,
who?
exactly, exactly. Yes. Yeah, yeah.
How many
And
more
so,
days of the go
oh,
on.
today is the last day, so I'll be leaving after this call.
Okay.
um, but yeah, again, it just reinforces that the topic and the themes that are being brought in this book are so relevant today. And what I love about it is that we're not focusing on the issues; we're actually focusing on the solutions, right? Because the storyline is about
When you say we, you mean we
empowering.
in, sorry, we in the book, or we in the at the conference?
No, we in the book, as
Okay.
authors, as storytellers, we're telling a new story. We're telling a story that is empowering the students to be the change, right? To bring forward a more inclusive, a more interactive approach to learning through dialogue, through critical thinking, through engaging the students. And of course, Professor Amari is leading that, but the students are very engaged and very much involved in that. And I feel like that is really the next step, right? It starts with awareness that something needs to change, and we do need to activate the human dimension. And many people have spoken about it. Our presentation yesterday was about that as well.
Hmm.
But then, what does it actually mean? What does that look like? And how do you start that at the university level? How do you actually live that in practice here as students and professors and as a education system?
So this is the interesting thing I've been thinking about, right? And for those joining us, I see two of us on Facebook. Um, Mark and I have written a book, "Coming Home to Who You Are," or Education Re-Enlightened. You can get an advanced copy, reader copy. Follow the QR code or go to beingatfullpotential.com/coming home. You can find past episodes as well as the full release in September. All right. Mark, one thing I've been thinking about is the secession of businesses, of wealth, yes, um, of wisdom, and of well-being. And that part, well-being, is a unique challenge I think digital entrepreneurs are going to have to look at, that the digital world is going to have to look at, because it's raising a set of problems. I know a colleague of ours, Mark, he talks about circular economies. I mean, that everybody talks about circular economies or giving back into the local economy.
Mhm.
Um, but if as a digital earner, I can earn from one place, not pay taxes there, drive up the prices inside another place where it's lower, like how is living sustainable? How's it regenerative? And we have to think of ways, how's it that we can have people who actually care, who are doing real work, such as nurses, doctors, teachers, who don't live in a digital economy, but how can they have a living wage where they can afford housing, they can afford childcare? Like I'm raising all these questions, but I think I don't know, was that touched on at the seminar or
Yeah, yeah, the aspects of it.
I'm saying a lot of
Um,
things.
well,
Sorry.
they're like themes like income inequality are very uh, relevant, right? And the SDGs spoken about a lot, Sustainable Development Goals, the fact that we're not meeting those targets, and the narrative is very much we need to work harder to meet those goals. We need to have more data. We need to do more tracking. We need to do more control, right? That sort of narrative was very strong yesterday. And at no point was there any mention about the inner development goals as a
Mm,
key to unleashing that until we brought it up in our session, in the afternoon, and there were
mhm.
some sort of hints at it throughout some of the presentations, but it wasn't something. It's not in the mainstream narrative that's clear. And
Mhm.
when it is brought up, it's sort of like a bit uncomfortable still. This whole inner dimension of change and measuring the inner component rather just focusing on all the external metrics, making sure that we reach those targets no matter what. We just have to push harder, work harder, versus who do we need to become, right? How does our being needs to shift? How does our inner, um, yeah, the inner perspectives need to evolve? And
S-
that's a conversation that's more difficult to have in these types of environments, but I think definitely needed.
mm. You know, one thing about inner development work and virtues, if you will, inner development ends with action. Virtues ends in action with courage. Virtues in action. It's about an expression of the inner world that I feel we miss inside the work. And when I say we miss, I mean that's where it actually comes down to it. And you know what? I'm not even projecting this. I'll speak about me. I do a lot of inner work. I know a lot of stuff. There's wisdom, but then wisdom is knowledge in action. So in order to be in a space to have more influence on the world I want to create, I need to take more action. And that's more of a private conversation you and I have had in previous conversations. But you're right. It's hard to create action in a collective, I think, nowadays, or in collaboration with more people. Maybe this is the human experience.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of dilemmas, right? That's
Mm,
definitely what I'm feeling. Is there's a lot of tension, a lot of dilemmas, a lot of not knowing questions, and of course, in an academic institution, you try to research your way out of that, right?
But
And
knowing won't get you there.
yeah, so it's all like a mirror to what we have been storytelling in the book. And it's
Hmm.
just this realization that yes, we are in this moment of transition and we need to tell new stories. That was actually one of the really good points. We need to start telling new narratives. Very important point that came up yesterday. And I think if I would summarize what we're trying to do with the Coming Home to Who You Are book, it's telling a new narrative. It's imagining an alternative way for education to really serve the student in today's day and age, right?
Mm.
With all the crises happening, with all the exponential technologies happening in parallel, what does education look like? And how can we tell a story of how that can come to life? And I feel like we're doing that, right? And it's not perfect, but it is one, it's one way forward, one possible way forward.
Sure, sure. It's our way that we feel called to. Let me ask you this: before jumping into the chapter,
Yep.
what we, you and I have been having a conversation on education in the academic sense and in the familial sense, because I think this is a very family-driven book. The
Hmm.
father and his Kenna and his father, Dean Pilot and his daughter, which we're going to get into, and me and my father, you and your daughter. We've talked about
Hmm.
families and so on. Halfway through the book, as the co-author, what does education mean to you? That's a very broad topic, but what does education mean to you?
More listening, more listening, more dialogue, more exchange, more discovery in the exchange. So exchange with the purpose of discovering, of progress, of moving forward. Yeah, but I think listening is a big piece, and that is what's zapping, I think, a lot of the energy in this type of setup where you have this big lecture hall, you have a couple of people up in the front, panelists, they have the microphone, the spotlight is on them, and everyone is sitting there to receive. And so the listening is happening in one direction, and it's all focused on a few people, whereas I believe the solutions and the way forwards are sitting in the collective wisdom, the collective knowing, inner knowing that we have. And we need to break that open. And
Hmm.
that it can be done. It can be done, right? We just need more breakout sessions. We need more spaces that are intentionally created for dialogue, for discovery, for putting the tensions, the challenges, the dilemmas at the center and allowing all the different perspectives to be heard. And from there, something new is going to emerge, right? That's the beautiful thing, is that this emergent wisdom that is in the space. And right now, it is, yeah, it's like we're listening to an expert who, most of the time actually is admitting they don't have the solution. Um, but it's just so clear that it's not working. And for me, the benefit has been, of course, these moments of interaction where you do meet people.
Hmm.
And but the other benefit of coming here is just experiencing that so much time has gone by, so much of the world has changed, and yet so much of how higher education is being delivered ain't the same. It's like it hasn't evolved. We're doing the
Hmm.
same thing, expecting different results, and it just feels really out of touch. It feels out of date. Yeah.
Yeah. You mean the older one of us is saying that it feels out of date?
Well, absolutely. And if we want to kind of segue into the chapter with Ella and Dean Pilot. So Ella being the
Yeah.
daughter, she's not at university yet. She's in high school. She's a bit younger. And Dean
Hmm.
Pilot, of course, being responsible for the overall direction of the university and how things are done. His awakening process starts when he's paying attention to his own daughter and starts
Mm.
to really listen to her and to see that she's not feeling inspired in her life, right? And that she's struggling with things. When he starts to listen to her, the dots are connecting in his mind. And that's when he's like, well, this is exactly what Professor Amar has been talking about. This is exactly what the student salons have been about. And so he's starting to see what has organically been emerging in his own university through the lens of his own daughter and her needs, right? What are her needs that are coming through? And it's moving him, right, at a personal level. So his heart is being touched in ways that Professor Amar is not able to do, right? But his own daughter, of course, is able to do that because it's, you know, that's that just that kind of relationship.
Hmm. We really can't. Sometimes we don't see a story until it's close at home. It's in the home that we get to see it.
That's
I'm
right.
reminded of many politicians in America. They're against, and wherever you fall on the divide of this, I don't know, but
Yeah.
against, well, let's just say a particular group. Could be queers, could be a marginalized group with Indians, Africans, or something. But until that comes into their home, and it's like, oh, I've married this person, or oh, I feel this certain way about love. It's like, oh, now that's a personal issue that I need to get interested in.
Yeah.
Happens in America,
I
happens in Europe. Go on. What's up?
I have a great story, you know, the
Hmm.
of the power of touching the heart of decision makers, leaders, CEOs. There was an initiative in the company that I used to work for, a big corporation, where the managers, the leaders were trying to influence the CEO, the decision maker at the time, to pay more attention to sustainability initiatives. And
Hmm.
they were struggling to really get more than just nice words, but to actually get investment and resources being allocated to these types of initiatives. And what they did is they organized a session where they invited their kids to come to work and to be in the meeting and to have
Hmm.
the kids talk about why having a healthy and a thriving environment and a taking care of nature and all of that, why it's important to them. And
Hmm.
that was like the heart opening moment, right? That was really, now you're not looking, you're not being influenced by a PowerPoint presentation where all the data is being presented and you're trying, somebody's trying to persuade you of doing something different. But now
Hmm.
you have a story, right? You have a child speaking about their future and how they're scared about their future and that there's not going to be, you know, that we're destroying the earth and that it's destroying the natural habitat. And that is that's what shifts, right? That's the thing that touches our heart, and it goes like, wow, I need to rethink this. And you know, people still talk about that as some of the defining moments, and it was so simple, right? It's just such a simple thing.
So I hear you, Mark, and I resonate, and that's good and dandy. I'm gonna stretch us now. Because there's this quote that says, "As long as you see your child as more valuable than mine, we will always be at contention or at war." Something to that effect. And I'll make this all personal. There have been moments when I was at, or I had another person coming at me, and it's just like, you look and remind me about one of my students. Like, because I've had compassion for that student. I feel you are just like that person. I know I'm worthy of being, and I want to afford you to that. Because I mean, with the inner development work, it's, I see the dignity in you, and I want to meet that. But it's, my point being, we can look at our own children and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this for you to make this better for you, for your well being. I think the stretch is collectively, how can we look at other people's children and say, I'm going to make this effort into the community that extends beyond me that I can't see? Because I think a lot of the, I don't know, stressors or it's oftentimes it's not people, it's the systems above people. And that's not to take away their agency, but it's because they're people who control the systems. They're rooms where the rules are written. But it's how do we look out for the collective well being? And they are, as I understand, but they can make better decisions if they invite other perspectives, just like you were saying. other voices into the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. To be human is to always be in the messy middle. We do our best where we are, where we can, with what we have. But now, how are we going to teach us to your daughter, Mark?
Well, she's teaching it to me. So again, for me, it's really flipping it.
How so?
I
What do you mean by flipping it? What
I
does that mean?
honestly feel I have more to learn from her than she has from me at this point. When she was
Yeah.
younger, maybe it was the other way around. But at this stage, she's turning 19, and she has a much better grasp on the, yeah, I guess the needs of the younger generation, the aspirations, and if I want to be in service to that, of course I'm going to listen to her, and I'm going to learn from her and from her friends and from the people around her. It makes all the sense in the world. So that's what I mean by flipping. I have gotten out of, and I think pretty well gotten out of this idea that I know better because I'm older, I'm wiser, and yeah, that doesn't
Ye-
speak to me anymore.
it's interesting. The whole. I think kids are given to the world so that we might learn about ourselves.
Hmm.
Like parents are given to us when we're born that we might learn about ourselves, and
Hmm.
then we have kids that we might learn about ourselves. It's always
Hmm.
learning about ourselves.
Hmm.
And I feel as an educator, as business owners, as parent, as like older people in the community, we
Hmm.
are there to give advice if and when asked, but you got to let them do it too. You got to let
Hmm.
them take over, take control. Man.
Yeah, I don't know if it's about take over or take control, but it is honoring their
Or express
voice.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honoring
Yeah.
their voice. I feel that is the most important thing. And that is clearly what's missing today in these types of institutions where I feel I am right now. And yeah, and that will make the difference. That will absolutely make the
I,
difference.
I think sometimes we shut down the conversation because this generation, particularly with the screens, two things. One, they don't know themselves as well. And I mean, that's just the product of our time. And two, I'm not sure if they've had the care to understand how to care for other people. I think that's innate part of human to be human, to take care of other people. But I don't know if we've taught that like intentionally, and even given them the skills to critically think and communicate, and to because sometimes when they speak, they're very angry, and that turns the previous generation. And that's what creates the rift during adolescence when the kid comes. Oh, I know what that means in
Lights
any
off.
culture.
Yeah.
In any culture, wherever you are, whenever they turn off the lights, that means go home.
So I'll just show you where I am here. So this is the
Yeah,
blackboard, and I'm actually sitting at the professor spot. But when I turn around, ta-da!
the lecture hall.
Yeah,
Oh man, look at that.
feet's all
E-
planted to the ground, so you can't move them. You can't create a little circle. You can't create breakouts. You're just all in rows.
yeah,
And
it's
I'm
you know what.
here at the front, up high. I'm up high, by the way. So let me tell you all what's going on here today.
Let me pour my wisdom into your vessel.
Exactly.
Even how the classroom setup has bolted down chairs. You had to unbolt the chairs so that they can make their own circles. But even beyond that, now it's even outside of the classroom. Oh man, education is being reimagined again and again and again, and we need to meet these demands.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and
I'll let you have the go on.
simply, I think unbolting the chairs would already make a difference, and it would absolutely make a difference because it allows people to see each other. Right now, they're looking right all in front of them. If you unbolt
Yeah,
the chairs, they can sit like this. They can have a
yeah.
conversation. You know,
I
it's
remember
not rocket science.
My in classroom management, whenever I could set up my desk, I would always set it up behind the students, and then you put them in pairs so that you can walk through, and you have as much fluid movement in between them. Um, and you can actually quickly make new groups and new arrangements, new engagement. Anyhow,
What's
what's up?
crazy is that I think in high school, it's
Hmm.
probably much more, flexible in terms of the seating arrangements and the types of setups. What I find amazing is that in the higher education, it's much more the lectures and the order and which you would expect that as you grow and as you mature and as you become more aware of who you are, that you would want to actually loosen that structure more and allow for the more human connection. But anyway, I am
That's
I'm
our
aware of the
time.
time, and I'm super happy that I did come here because it really is it's one thing to talk about it, it's one thing to hear it from other people, and it's another thing to actually be in these spaces, experience it, talk about it with other people, and just be like, we're onto something, right? Let's keep moving forward here. Let's keep telling a new narrative.
Yeah, yeah. We are going to become part of the canon, and we'll work on our book coming out in September. One last time, I'll let you know. Coming Home to Who You Are. Education Re-Enlightened. You can get your advanced reader copy here by following the QR code, by scanning the QR code with your phone, or going to beingatfullpotential.com, Coming Home to Who You Are. You can jump on the wait list. And yeah, that's me, Marcus Aurelius Higgs, and
Mark van den Einde from Florence, Italy. All the best.
Florence. All the best. All the best. All right. Be beautiful where you are. We'll
Take
be back
care.
in next week. Peace.
Thanks, Marcus. Bye bye.
Mhm.